Hi, Rick Harsh, speaking to you in my capacity as editor of and also as a writer, but mainly as editor of Corona Samizdat books. What I wanted to tell you, because we're not publishing a lot lately because of the financial crisis of 2024 that has just wiped out the publishing industry. But we're still here, and we're still alive. I spoke about the need to blow up everything in order to scare buyers into buying the Friedenberg masterpiece, Cult of the Cactus Boots, a diagnostic. America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots, a diagnostic. And everything was going fine. And then suddenly, we got a bill that came out of nowhere, and it wiped out my plan to have it published. Well, we'll see. Next week I get the big postal bill, and if it's not too bad, I might still be able to, at least by the end of the year, get America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots published. But I have other plans. And so we're going to publish next America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots. That's for sure. And then we're going to publish Mark Douglas, a book of poetry, just like his last one, only different poems probably, and maybe even a different color, who knows, or cover, because it's a color cover. We have that here? Yeah. Okay. See, it may be a similar design. It may not. I have no idea. I don't need to interfere with those decisions. You know, that's between the author and Zach Tanner. That will be published along with Randall Eldon Green's short stories. Now, I know, short stories don't sell, but they're pretty fucking good sometimes. And I mentioned in my last very long, too long probably for most of you, poetry is short. Poetry doesn't sell either. Short stories. But I mentioned that in the last review I did, which was more or less a review of Louis Armand's Clair Obscur. I recommend watching that video, even though it's 50 minutes, because there are a few things in there, nuggets, that are interesting, I think. Maybe not. But at least buy Armand's Clair Obscur. But in that I mentioned, and here's one of those nuggets, this book of poems by Dada sound poet extraordinaire Dirk Hulstrunk, and it's really it's a great book to have because of the art, and you can keep looking at art, and because they're poems of about that size on every page, and each one was great, and some were extremely funny, and anyway, he turns things upside down, which things really ought to have done to them. Great book. So we're going to have a book of short stories, and we're going to have a book of poetry. That's how we're going to hit the new year, perhaps, off and running with books that don't sell. But, the thing is, actually, Mark Douglas's book sold pretty well for a poetry book, especially. And, I don't know, maybe 50 copies so far. Maybe I owe him royalties. I'll have to talk to him about that. Maybe next year. But Randall Eldon Green's one story that I read was fantastic. And I don't know anything about his others because, I know he can write a great short story. And I had him and Zach work on it. I don't know what work Zach has done, maybe design. I have no idea. So those are the first two. After that, there's a lot I don't know. I'm going to mark the ones here. Alex Kudera has a book that's been published, and we may be putting it back into print, or we may be publishing the sequel to it. I'm not sure. We'll get back to you on that. Really, very highly. I started reading it and said, "Yeah, this is good fiction." Then W.D. Clark actually, I think, read the whole thing and he really loved it. And he's an excellent reviewer. So that was a good decision. Luke Dellin and Alex Kudera will be published together. Luke has been getting the shaft. He should have been published a year ago. I think he's been waiting longer than anybody who's been promised. I hope we'll get something from Mark Nash and Gary Amdahl. Unfortunately for us, but fortunately for the world, Galleon, Lee D. Thompson's publishing company, I don't know if it's just Lee. I got to find out about that so I can talk more about it. He published, or they published, Amdahl's The Creative Writers, which has a great cover of a James Ensor painting, and is really an extremely brilliant book. Very funny, well, we'll see. I'm reading it just here and there because I'm supposed to be reading the next Louis Armand, and I don't know what's going to happen there because I just got another Louis Armand. And is it here or there? It must be there. I can't see that anything's in the right place anymore. And I just did it yesterday. Anyway, Louis Armand, Breakfast at Midnight. Yeah. And I've read a couple of pages just, here and there, because I just got it this morning. Great stuff. And, so, well, what was the point of that? The point of that was that, neither one are books that we've published, but I got to read them, and I'm going to read them. And hopefully Gary Amdahl and Mark Nash is, a brilliant writer who does not do the same anything twice. So we'll see what he comes up with, if anything. I don't know if he actually has promised, but we'll see. So that would be two really big, meaty sized 300 to 500 pages of literature. And maybe Randall Eldon Green's is that long as well. So now the next two are one. This is where we start getting into the crazy shit. Chase Griffin, a wild writer who wrote Necromancer's Theremin, which I read and enjoyed immensely. And he's got one, I can't remember the title, something with Peter Zoidoid, I think, in it. And that'll be published along with a book by X in geometric, well, everything's geometric, isn't it? If it's, anyway, X is two writers who, if I understand, have never met, but they collaborate, and they had in at the Prague Micro Festival, they had a film, and all I can say about it is I saw it afterwards. I fell asleep during it. Was it boring? No, I fell asleep during someone else's. Was that boring? No, I was fucking tired. That's all. And anyway, so that's another one that's coming up. A book by X that looks to be interesting in a dark, ain't we all gonna be dead soon sort of way, which reminds me of a line from Magic Prague, but we won't go into that. And then we have two sizable, like I think 300 to 500 page books by the Indians, not just the Indians, the Bengali Indians, the native-speaking Bengali Indians. Deben Roy, a third book by him, and then Debashish Ghosh, or Debu Ghosh. So we got Deben and Debu. Uh, Deben's is a sort of I don't know, treatise isn't the right word, but the theme is violence. And I can't remember the title, but I have the title here somewhere along with a nice cover. The cover's done already, maybe some work on colors and so on. And the Devashish Ghosh, right now the title is The Boy from Digboy. Digboy is an odd town up in Assam. Odd in that there's a story behind how it became a big town, minerals of some kind, I think. Anyway, it's a memoir, and I was just charmed by it, and so I thought, well, if nothing else, now he's not a professional writer, let's say, or a seasoned writer, and he's probably never written a book before, but he wanted to do this, and he did, and I think it's great at the very least, on the in the sense of found objects are. This is like something, if you were researching history, you'd think, oh, hey, a memoir, great. And there's a lot of information of that kind in there, although it's basically an episodic book. And so there are episodes in it. Did I mention anything about, no, I'm not sure I mentioned any, okay. Segrov, we were going to publish something of his in Spanish, but I think we're going to do better than that right now. Villafuerte, his Entre Lunas, is now translated, and he's putting the finishing touches on it. It's going to be called, or the translation is Interlunar. And the other one is Segrov's is actually not going to be just Segrov's. It's going to be substantially his, but it's going to be a compendium of Corona Samizdat authors, whoever is willing to call himself or herself a Corona Samizdat author. Like, for instance, I will ask Lauren Fairbanks, do you got something maybe you'd like to contribute? There's going to be, Philip Friedenberg is going to do a film essay, and I think he's done it already, but he did it orally. I have the film of it. It's spectacular, and so that's something. We may get an essay by our own film man. I'm not going to mention his name again because he hasn't committed yet. But I think it would be great if he was able to. What will I do? Maybe nothing, maybe something. But we're going to have an introduction to the poetry of a certain Pellegrini by translations included by Roberto Segrov, and also a brief introduction, let's say, a little bit about his life. Nothing extraordinarily long. And then we're going to have, also Segrov has written a short story and translated it into English, and we made a film of part of it to take to the Prague Micro Festival. So we're going to have the Micro Festival film, and I'll be presenting it here. And also, Segrov is going to, his whole story is going to be there. And so that's something that I'm very interested in. And I thought, well, while we're doing all this, let's talk to some people, and maybe some of you will get this and listen to it and say, I'll do it. I'll are you a Corona Samizdat writer? No, but Well, okay, fine. You'll be one. You'll be one. You know, we'll just throw stuff in there, out of there. And we would include drawings, paintings, etc. Um, so just a fun book that has some really interesting stuff. Pellegrini, um, just something we should all know about and all that. So anyway, uh, that's that. But there's one more. It's not a compendium. It's a sort of collage in words, languages, and photographs, and maybe collages. And it's going to be called Odada, and it's going to mix um, a story with photographs from Prague and Trieste. And why Trieste? Well, maybe we won't tell you that they're Trieste. I don't know. But we're already working on that. So that'll be another book. The Erotonomicon, have I told you about that yet? That's the third in the trilogy. It's Vesna Radic's swan song, I hope. The reason I hope is because, we've got Vesna. I just don't understand. This is such a gorgeous book. This is the second book, the Rado Letters. The first book was Tenderlopolis, very, very thin. This one got a bit out of hand. I think it got into the 150s or so. Are there even page numbers? Oh, okay, 100 pages. So we've got these two books, and the Erotonomicon, I want to be short enough that this can be the shortest trilogy ever written, so that we've got a new line of books. And I'm not sure when it's going to start, but one of them is probably the start is going to be revision, actually just fixing typos and new artwork, and a design that is similar in every case, sort of like the New York Review of Books. You've got the little square and so on. But we're going to have, I think, a symbol of decay, destruction, the end of it all, and so on. But it'll form maybe Grecian columns and big rocks barely balancing on the lintel portion of it. I wonder if you call it a lintel portion if it's not lintel. But anyway, it'll be like that, and but it'll have a like this does. It'll have a window of opportunity for the artistry, and we have an artist from Calcutta right now. Kolkata, working on it at this very moment. Yeah, he's probably not in bed yet. So that'll be the micro line in as a sort of tip of the hat to the micro festival, which led to a lot of the thinking that is going into this. Although the big thought, this one preceded that, but it's going to be called the micro line, and we'll be publishing a lot of these in microline forms. There will be so many thin books. Why not? And that is it, except for the big books. The big books, and this is where we may run into trouble, and why I'm doing this, and I'm going to send it out to everybody because we need to sell books. Again, I'm not begging, but please, buy a lot of books. I'll do one on what books. For one instance, I'll grab 2 books. No, 3. Okay, you've got books that are selling like crazy and then stopping and then selling again. Solarium is one. That's here. Holy shit, there it is. Solarium. Randall Leong's The Year of the Plague Rat. And my guess is the next breakout is going to be Prison Mars by Lauren Fairbanks. But it happened with A Pastoral. Um, and as soon as I made sure that it was back in print, it stopped selling for a while, but it's starting again. And there are a lot of books like that that are very classic. Wailing, Madness, Shame, and Death has been. It stopped somewhere in the like 30 some books had sold, and pretty quickly, and then it stopped and then started up again, and it's now and Australians are finding about it, which is odd because it was written in Australia. And why not, if you're going to write something in Australia, why not write it and publish it somewhere else, and just be rid of it? Well, no, he stayed there, and it's a fantastic novel. And then there's the beautiful and odd. I'm going to read this sometime, just one segment of this book, because it's just a wacky fucking thing. It's a Over the Rainbow, hardly. He has interesting taste in titles. So, wake up, we're almost there. That's not a title that's gonna sell a lot of books immediately, but in fact, it's not going to do much immediately, but it is great stuff. Whereas you have a fascinating title like The Periplus of Spur Tank Road, and here's one that is in good enough shape, but it's the one imperfect printing job that was done by our first printer. And the book is called The Appearance of Death to a Hindu Woman, which is from an old Bengali book by Bankim Chatterjee, I believe is his name. What is his full name? And that sounds full, doesn't it? But it's not. It's not the full name. Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, Krishnakanta's Will. In there, he has the line, to a Hindu woman, death appears very easy. I love that. And so it became the book. Now, this is going to go. This is relatively ready. These are both revving to go. And so I'm not saying like don't panic or anything like that. No panic buying, because if they all sell really fast, we'll have the money real fast to reprint them. But these when they're reprinted, they'll be a little bit too big for the micro line. But the micro line is coming, and so we have a lot of good ideas coming, and some great talent coming, some mediocre talent. I'll be working on that. But can you imagine a microline? The biggest microline book will be the trilogy. We'll probably print a microline third volume, and then we'll put it all together into one volume, and both will sell, both will sell for €10. How do you like that? So anyway, that's what's coming this year. Two things I haven't mentioned: Zach Tanner's second and third volume of Margie and the Atomic Brain. Maybe maybe it won't be both volumes, but at least one more volume I think will come out. And I do think Hamilton Noir. I have a lot of work to do on that one, and it's going to be a flip book, two books together. And one book I think is more or less ready to go. The second one, I've been very busy, and the author has been very injured, and so I took advantage of him, and didn't do a goddamn thing. But I did finish helping to edit Interlunar, which will be a microline first Spanish translation. Or no, we have Arlt. So anyway, it's all going to be like that, and look how neat it looks. I'll put it here. If I left out anything, please let me know. If there's someone out there who says, "What the fuck? You told me book was, Zach keeps track of this stuff, and every half a year I ask him what's on the list, and it's the same thing now all the time. The list is not growing very rapidly. But if I left someone out, forgive me. Don't forgive Zach because he didn't do anything wrong. And so this is what's coming from Corona Samizdat, and I kept this almost under 25 minutes.